Subscribe to become part of the Hive. Be sure to like and ring the notification bell. Thanks, honeybees! Enjoy the video. Meow! Hi, honeybees. My name is Raven. That's Jasper. This is Crystal Jubilee Barbie. And welcome back to our channel. The cats have been kind of a struggle today, so they're not gonna... Actually, Eden is underneath the desk right now, but I don't have enough space to, pull her out with how my desk is set up, and October is just not having it today. So, you know what? That's fine. There's enough cat hair on this desk. We don't need any more for today. If you haven't guessed, I'm here to talk about Barbie, the Barbie movie, aka. And I brought out the only Barbie that I have. I have childhood Barbies. I never got rid of them, but I didn't take them with me when I moved out of my mom's house. This is my special Barbie. So I did take this one. And the closest I have to Ken is this doll of Time from Alice Through the Looking Glass, played by Sacha Baron Cohen in the movie. So I thought I'd bring him out too, so we could have sort of a Ken. So that's why he's there. Anyway, Barbie, the movie, as I'm posting this, would have just come out to wide audiences in theaters. I actually saw it about 2 months ago when it test screened in LA, which I think was on May 1st. So 2.5 months early, which was great, which was awesome. I wore this dress to the preview screening, and all the people there who were there for the preview screening dressed up in Barbie outfits. Most of them did Barbie sweatshirts and lots of pink. It was a great time. Greta Gerwig was there, who directed the movie. She actually sat right in front of me and my friends. I could have kicked her in the head if I wanted to, but I don't. I don't. I like her. I wouldn't. But she was there, and it was funny. She laughed a few times. I presume she's seen the movie before. She made it. She's watched it all a million times. And she watched it earlier that day because there was a screening for children, and then there was our screening later. And she did laugh a few times whenever Ryan Gosling was on screen. She laughed at some of his jokey Ken parts, which honestly, me too. That's what most of the times I laughed was at Ken. Ryan Gosling steals the show. I mean, if you saw the movie, you probably know that already. If you haven't seen the movie, you probably shouldn't watch this review, but I appreciate you anyway. But he did. He steals the show. He's so good as Ken. There's all this marketing about I didn't feel like I was right for the part of Ken, and everyone thought he was too old and whatever, and he found his Kenergy, and boy did he. He did. He really did. So I am just going to kind of go over what happens in the movie, my feelings about it. You know how reviews work. I'm going to do that. Since it has been a while since I watched the movie, it's no longer super fresh in my brain, so I'm probably going to skip over some stuff. But again, if you saw the movie, you know what happens. And if you didn't, you should watch it. So I'm just going to kind of run through it and then kind of talk about my general thoughts. I didn't write notes or record this review right after seeing it back in May because I had to sit on it for a while. I'm the type of person who appreciates a movie more or dislikes a movie more after I've sat on it for a while, after I've let it ruminate in my brain. And to be honest, right after I saw this movie, I was it was okay. I was there with a group of friends and they all loved it, and I was I liked it. I thought it was okay. But in thinking about it since then, and the stuff that's slowly come out publicly about it that reminded me of certain parts of the movie, just thinking about it, I do like it a lot more since I've seen it. So now I'm ready to talk about it. And as I'm filming this, it is July 10th, so it's coming out in about 11 days. So really got to get on the ball with this one. Barbie, of course, stars Margot Robbie as Barbie. She is stereotypical Barbie, which is just the Barbie you think of when you think of Barbie. That's her. She's not any special career Barbie. There's all sorts: astronaut Barbie, CEO Barbie, doctor Barbie, veterinarian Barbie, restaurant Barbie, lots of stuff. But she's none of those. She's Barbie, right? And then Ken is obviously her counterpart, played by Ryan Gosling. He's just Ken, right? That's part of the marketing too. He is just Ken. Ken was made for Barbie. Ken is aware of this. He is obsessed with Barbie. His life revolves around her. His job is beach. He's just Ken. That's just what Ken is. A guy who hangs out with Barbie and goes to the beach and stuff like that. And then there's a whole bunch of other variations. We open in Barbie World, which is basically a different dimension where the Barbies exist and live as real people, but they're still dolls. Like there's the dream house. They have a whole bunch of different like versions of Barbie there. There's, for example, physicist Barbie, played by Emma McKay. There is Alexandra Shipp. I'm not sure which Barbie she was, but she was a different Barbie. There was Sharon Rooney played a Barbie. She was the plus size Barbie. She was also lawyer Barbie, so plus size lawyer Barbie, which is great because one thing I was thinking was, are they just going to have like skinny white Barbies, even though there's a wide variation of Barbies? And of course they didn't, which was great. Like before like the trailer dropped and everything, I was like, oh no, Barbie movies are just going to be like the skinny white pretty Barbies. It's all sorts of Barbies and Kens, which is awesome, which is great. So when the trailer came out, I was like pleasantly surprised. I was like, oh great. There's Issa Rae as President Barbie. She was pretty cool. And then there's a variation of Kens too, that don't really have their specific like thing. They're all just Ken, and they each have their each corresponding Barbie, right? So the beginning opening on Barbie World, I loved. Like the immediate world building of this like Barbie dimension universe was amazing. Like it looked beautiful, of course. You see it in the trailer. Bits of it, of all the dream houses, and everything's like pink, and then there's the beach, and it opens with one of the Barbie girl songs. And this song, like the soundtrack is pretty good. I do like pretty much all the music in it. The opening song is probably my favorite, and there's a few different variations of it. Like as the story goes on, the song kind of like changes based on what's happening with our main Barbie, and I thought that was really cool and clever and like fun to notice, and which is like a little extra like thing to laugh at too, because like I said, it's pretty clever and it's funny. And like the opening of Barbie, that just does the world building, and there's the world building of how the Barbies live, and there's a narrator kind of helping with like exposition and like telling us how things work. It's narrated by Helen Mirren, and she talks about how like Barbies don't have stairs, they don't really need to walk anywhere. So her dream house is like 3 stories high, Margot Robbie's dream house, and the other Barbies too, and she doesn't need stairs because Barbies, like when little girls want to move them somewhere, they'll just pick them up and put them where they want them to go, right? So we see her like floating down from her dream house, and she takes a shower, but there's no water. And her closet, she just looks at her outfit and it like changes, like she doesn't have to change into it. And that's just how the doll world works, because that's kind of how it works in our world. So it's cool to see like the connection of how that would look in a like real functioning society, right? Like it's a utopia there. Everything is run by Barbies and all the various Barbies, right? Everything's run by all the various Barbies, and the Kens are just kind of like there as their counterparts, and they have all the jobs, right? And all the Kens just kind of hang out at the beach and like talk about Barbie and talk to Barbie, and that's pretty much how this world works. And they hang out and they party and they have dances like every day, every night. It's basically like Imagination Land, and I thought like the portrayal of that was really cool. And I would have loved a lot more of the movie to be like about how Barbie world worked, and just even seeing the Barbies like live in Barbie land, you know? Like a lot of the animated Barbie movies, like, well, pretty much all of them are like set in the Barbie world, Barbie land, right? But this one, they end up going to the real world. Basically, yeah, all the Barbies are living. There's like really great like song and dance sequences. Everybody's like happy with how this world works. Ryan Gosling Ken, is obsessed with Margot's Barbie. Margot kind of like brushes him off constantly. Like she's nice to him. She says hi Ken, but she says hi to all the other Kens as well. Oh, one thing I'll mention, it's not just Barbies and Kens. There's the doll Alan, played by Michael Cera. And the narrator says something like, there's only one Alan. And then Michael Cera says, yeah, I'm confused by that. And it just tickled me. I thought it was really funny, and it just stuck out to me.
Hi, Barbie.
Oh, hi, Alan. There are no multiples of Alan. He's just Alan.
Yeah, I'm confused about that.
And then there's like Midge, who's Barbie's friend, who is known as like the pregnant doll, but Midge wasn't always the pregnant doll. She was a thing before that happened. She was like the homelier, less sexy version of Barbie, who's Barbie's best friend. And one version of her was pregnant, and she got replaced over the years by some of Barbie's like other friends. But she's like the one that's like more prominent in the movie than even like the other friends are. And there's also like Barbie's little sister and stuff like that, and like the plastic dog that poops that poops plastic poop and then eats it. And then, you know, I thought they were gonna use a real dog and just have the dog like eat its own poop or something, but they didn't. They had like a big plastic dog, which I guess would have been weird if they went the other way. But anyway, yeah, all these Barbies are existing in Barbie Land, and we get a peek into their world, and it's really colorful, really fun. All the Barbies gave really great Barbie energy, like peppy up their energy, smiling, laughing, stuff like that. And all the Kens are definitely giving like macho but not macho, because that's kind of Ken's thing. Like he's like kind of a cool guy macho man, but not in a way that like outshines Barbie. Like he still is very like loyal to Barbie. I've always loved the portrayal of Barbie and Ken's relationship over the years in other movies. I will say though, in this one I did like Ken's traditional portrayal of like being so devoted to Barbie, but in this one, especially the main Barbie, Margot's Barbie, like really just kind of like blew Ken off like the whole time. Like he's like, let's hang out, let's do this, and she's like, no, I'm gonna hang out with my friends. And she really just like seemed like she did not care about him. And even later in the movie, when she's traveling to the real world, he wants to join her, and she seems so inconvenienced by his presence. And it's just, personally, my idea of Barbie and Ken is that they are devoted to each other. And Barbie isn't wholly devoted to Ken as Ken is to her. Like she's devoted to like her friends and her family and her own wants and her own career, right? That kind of message about how like she can be anything, she can do anything, she can want anything, and that general like feminist power message that Barbie's always kind of been there to portray, and definitely like portrays really hard in this movie, but in a way where she's like, I just want whatever I want and I don't really need a man, you know, that kind of thing. Which is fine, but it kind of felt like a couple different mixing forms of like feminism, I guess. There's all these different portrayals. There's a side where it's like, if you want to be a stay-at-home mom and have a husband and rely on him, you should be able to do that. But also, if you want to be a CEO and not have any man in your life and do whatever you want to do all the time, you should be able to do that. And both those things can be true at the same time. It just seemed like there was a little bit of a weird mix of those two things where I don't really know how to explain it, but I don't know, I guess it's just a preference that I wish that there was a little more romance between the characters, and it didn't have to end with them happily ever after or anything like that, because it doesn't in the movie, and that's fine, but I would have liked a little bit more like throughout it, like her maybe having feelings originally and then realizing that she didn't or something, but the whole time she was just kind of treating him like an inconvenience, like nicely, but still like you could tell that she really did not care about Ken, at least in the portrayal in the movie. It just really seemed that way, and that kind of bummed me out, to be honest. I love them as a couple. And like I said, they didn't have to like stay a couple the whole movie with what happens in the film, but still, I would have liked there to be a point where she did feel that kind of affection for him, or at least we saw that she once felt that way for him at some point. So weird things start to happen to our main Barbie. At first, like, she starts feeling a little bit differently about the world, kind of out of nowhere, and it kind of builds. Like, first, instead of floating down from her roof, she falls off. She turns on the shower, which again has no water, and it's cold in her mind. Her fake toast or whatever she's eating is fake burned, which was funny to like have it break down like that. I also noticed in the film when she starts feeling off, she's no longer like wearing all pink. She actually wears an all blue outfit and no pink when it starts to get a little bit strange. And Barbie does wear multiple colors throughout the film, but most of it is very pink based. And this outfit, when she does start to feel off, she is all blue. Which was just something I noticed that I thought was interesting. You know, color has a lot of meaning, and this movie has a lot of colors in it. It's very bright. And her feet get flat. There's a really great shot that we've all seen in the trailer of her foot, you know, kind of bending how Barbie foot bends. And then at one point it just like goes flat. And she shows the other Barbies, she's like, what is wrong with me? She has this kind of like intrusive thought during a party sequence early on, where she says, again, it's in the trailer, have you guys ever thought about dying?
Do you guys ever think about dying?
And there's like a record scratch and everyone's like, what? And she's like, oh, never mind. but she cannot escape these thoughts and these feelings that she's having and this weird stuff that is happening to her. She just can't ignore it. So she decides to visit Kate McKinnon, who plays Weird Barbie. When I was looking up the cast list on Google, it said Kate McKinnon played Gymnast Barbie, which I guess is true because she's constantly in the splits, but they call her Weird Barbie in the movie, and she represents those Barbies that you played with a little too hard, like you cut their hair, you drew on their face, you were always bending their legs, that's why she's always in the splits. She has like a weird dress on, and like, yeah, her hair is everywhere, and there's marker on her face, and it's really funny. Great casting, honestly, for that one. Kate McKinnon plays the perfect Weird Barbie. She is a Weird Barbie in real life, I feel. Margot visits Weird Barbie, who tells her about the real world and how she needs to find the girl who's playing with her, because whoever is playing with her has influenced these thoughts and things that are happening, because whoever's playing with her must be having these existential thoughts. And Barbie's even kind of seeing like visions of like what the person who's playing with her is like seeing and feeling and thinking, like kind of like seeing her memories. And she wants to figure out what's wrong, because obviously this person is not feeling great, is having some sad, destructive thoughts. So she decides to travel to the real world, and it's a really funny sequence. Like, first Weird Barbie gives her a speech like, you can stay here with the pretty pink heel and ignore it, or you can take, and it's like one of those weird sandals, and you can figure out the truth. And that part's in the trailer. Everything I'm talking about like is in the trailer. A lot of what I'm talking about is in the trailer, but that's the context for what's in the trailer. She has to decide your path if you want to figure this out. So she does end up deciding to go to the real world, where first she has to drive, and then they have to like get on a boat, and then they have to like get on like a snow jet ski, and it ends with them having, and by them I mean Barbie and Ken. Ken joins her, like I mentioned earlier, and at first she's like, no, you're not coming with me, but he's like, please, and she's like, okay. So we see them go through all these terrains in like different outfits, and it's really cute and fun. And it ends with them rollerblading through Venice Beach, and everyone's like staring at them, and they get arrested twice. The first time, some guy slaps Barbie on the ass and she punches him. For some reason, they get arrested. I feel like you're allowed to do that. I feel like if someone slaps you on the ass like a stranger, you get to punch them in the face and you don't get arrested for it. I don't know. That's just me. I feel like I would definitely do that. And then they go to change their outfits because everyone's staring at them. So they go into like one of those on the beach clothing shops, and they just like walk out with the outfit and don't pay for it because they don't know what money is, because you don't have to pay for anything in the Barbie world. They get arrested for that. And so there's their mug shots. That's again in the trailer. And Barbie is kind of feeling like disheartened a little bit after all this is going down in the first like 10 minutes that they're in the real world. But she still is resolving to try to find the child who is playing with her. Meanwhile, Ken is discovering what the real world is all about, and both of them are discovering at the same time that the real world is not this like women-run feminist utopia like it is in Barbie land. Barbie at least was under the impression, all the Barbies were under the impression that their presence and their existence that they were created for was to, you know, encourage girls and women that they can do anything, they can be anything, right? That's, like I said, always what Barbie stands for. And so they thought that they had influenced the real world to be just like how it is in Barbie land. And Barbie and Ken are both discovering that that's not true, to Barbie's dismay and to Ken's delight. Ken discovers misogyny, and he is all about it. He is all about misogyny and men running things, and he's like, oh, I could be a doctor.
No, I won't let you do just one appendectomy.
But I'm a man.
But not a doctor.
Can I talk to a doctor?
You are talking to a doctor.
And I need a clicky pen?
No.
A sharp thing?
No.
There he is. Doctor!
Somebody get security.
It's a flip of the script, right? He's like, I could be anything. I'm not just here to exist for Barbie. There's like a sequence of him like seeing like all these like male doctors and these like male commercials on these screens, and like male CEOs and all this like other stuff happening around him, and he's like, oh my god. And meanwhile, Barbie ends up finding the girl who she thinks is playing with her, the girl who owns her doll, at like her high school or middle school or whatever it is, and she's sitting with her group of friends who all vaguely resemble like the Bratz dolls, which is a funny little detail. It might not be true. So Barbie gets there and she's like, ta-da, it's me, Barbie, I changed your life, I made everything better, you love yourself because of my existence, right? And the girls are like, who? Like, what? Like, I stopped playing with Barbies like years ago. Barbies are dumb. Barbies are stupid.
We haven't played with Barbie since we were like 5 years old. Oh.
And Barbie gets really upset by this, and she leaves. But it's out there at Mattel CEO that Barbie and Ken have escaped Barbie Land. And Will Ferrell is the CEO of Mattel, and he's like, we got to get Barbie out of the real world and back into Barbie Land. We got to get her. Meanwhile, the teenage girl who owns Barbie, her mother, Gloria, works at Mattel, and she also sees Barbie, and she's like, oh my god, Barbie in the real world, I have to help her. So she's trying to help her while Will Ferrell and all them are trying to get her back into Barbie Land. She visits like the CEO and everything, and they kind of like tell her about who they are, and don't think about it that this whole boardroom is filled with men. We love women, we love Barbie on top. And she's like, oh, okay. And they want to send her back to Barbie Land, and she's like, no, like, I can't just be blind to this anymore. I still have to like help this girl. I have to help whoever is like making me feel this way. So she leaves. That's when Gloria finds her, Gloria and her daughter, who are now finally convinced that she is the real Barbie. And she's like telling them about her world and whatever, and wants to take her back to Barbie Land. Before that, Ken gets back to Barbie Land, and he takes Misogyny with him. So when Barbie decides to take Gloria and her daughter back to Barbie Land, they get there and it is completely changed. There's a lot of sequences in the real world of them like chasing Barbie, and there's a whole chase with all the Mattel people trying to get her, but it all ends with them going back to Barbie Land on their own because Barbie's really excited to show them just the perfect utopia that Barbie Land is. But they get there and it's not anymore. Ken has taken over. He has taken over the dream house. It's now Ken's house. All the Kens are like, I'm above Barbie, and they just took over all their houses and basically brainwashed all the Barbies into being subservient to them. And Ken discovers a song by Matchbox 20 called Push. The song that goes, I wanna push you around, and I will, I wanna take you for granted. And he sings it like that. And it's really funny. Ryan Gosling singing this song is probably the best part of the movie for me. It's definitely the most memorable part because that song's been like stuck in my head ever since I saw the movie, and just the image of Ryan Gosling going, I wanna push you around, and I will, like he really gets into it. And it's the only song that he learned, I guess, from the real world because he sings it a couple of times and all the Kens sing it a couple of times. But another interesting part, so the real world correlates with Barbie Land. What happens in the real world affects Barbie Land. The opposite is also true. So Ken taking over with his like Ken dream house, which is called something else. It's like the Ken rough and tough mansion or something like that. I don't remember. But that makes its appearance in the real world. So now little boys are buying this like cool rough Ken house, and like all these other like Ken cool guy items are getting really popular on the market and just like taking out all of like the Barbie stuff, and they're making a lot of sales, Mattel, but Will Ferrell, the CEO, is still like upset about this because no, like it's Barbie, it's not Ken, it's Barbie and Ken, like Barbie comes first, so we got to get things back to normal, which is cool. Like I'm glad that wasn't something that they had to get over, like convincing everybody that Barbie is still cool. Like they didn't have to go through that. Like the Mattel CEO was like, no, this is about Barbie. I know we're all men, but this is about Barbie. And one thing I didn't note is when Barbie was going through the Mattel offices, she enters this room where Rhea Perlman is sitting, and Rhea Perlman plays Ruth, who's Barbie's creator, but we don't know that yet, or we're not supposed to, but definitely from the scene I was like, that's Barbie's creator for sure, and we're gonna see her again at the end of the movie, and we did. But she walks into this room and it's like her in this little like house, just in the middle of this office building, and she like talks to her, and like she's a very sweet, lovely older woman. I don't remember exactly what she said, but it was like a nice little speech like in support of Barbie, and she does that again at the end of the movie. So yeah, everyone wants to get everything back to normal except for the Kens. So it's up to Barbie and Gloria's daughter to unbrainwash the Barbies, and they discover that Gloria kind of has the power to unbrainwash the Barbies by giving this kind of like speech about the struggles of womanhood. She gives it to one of the Barbies, and the Barbie's like clicks back on, like things are normal again. She's unbrainwashed by Ken. So they basically just like drive around Barbie Land and get each Barbie one by one and give her the same like speech about women's struggles, like you have to be a maid and a mother, and you have to be this and you have to be that, and you have to clean all this and you have to do all that, and you're expected to be this thing that nobody can be, and it's stressful. Like basically, like I said, struggles and stress of like being a woman, inherently womanhood, right? So she gives it to all the Barbies. They're all unbrainwashed. And then all the Barbies hatch a plan to get the Kens back to normal. And they do this by like making them jealous and making them fight, which is also another good sequence when all the Kens are in a circle acoustically singing Push by Matchbox 20. And then the Barbies each like slowly get up and go to a different Ken and get up and go to a different Ken. So all the Kens are jealous and they have this big fight. That's really like this big dance sequence. And then kind of at the end of that, they all kind of resolve. And then at the end of that, there's this big resolve and things basically go back to normal. Barbie and Ken kind of make up. Ken was really angry at Barbie for always pushing him to the side. So, you know, I'm sure that that was purposeful. I know I complained about how she was doing that, but it did have a purpose in the story. You know, just because I didn't like it doesn't mean it shouldn't have been there. You know what I mean? That's just my preference. But they kind of make up where he apologizes for like going 0 to 100 and trying to take over. But he lets his feelings known that he did feel pushed to the side and unimportant when all he wanted was to be with her. And Barbie acknowledges this and apologizes. She does say that she is not in love with Ken, but she does apologize for how she made him feel and how not every night needed to be girls' night. They could have had their nights together or their time together, and the Barbies and the Kens are like happy again, and there's like equilibrium there, how it was in the beginning of the movie. But obviously like Barbie can't forget all the things that she knows about the real world and the struggles of being a woman in the real world that she just does not have in Barbie land. And the Mattel people are there too, and whatever. It's a big ending to the movie. Oh, and I didn't mention the most important part of the resolve is, which happened earlier, is it was discovered earlier on that Gloria's daughter wasn't the one playing with Barbie. It was Gloria. Gloria, her daughter, is like a teenager now and doesn't really want to hang out with her and spend time with her. And we see all these like memories of Gloria, like playing with her daughter and her and her daughter being really close, and it's just not like that anymore. So to kind of feel better, she tried to like play with her old Barbies that she used to play with her daughter, and she started having all these really sad thoughts like about how that time has passed, and she doesn't know if it's gonna like ever get better again or when she's gonna be able to connect with her daughter again, because she's kind of all she has. And so Gloria's thoughts influenced Barbie to feel the way that she did. So in the resolve, Barbie can't just forget about that, because the struggles of women in the real world are still a very real thing, right? Just because Barbie Land went back to normal doesn't mean anything positive is going to happen in the real world. So then Ruth comes back and gives Barbie this kind of like long speech that makes Barbie really emotional. And it's supposed to be like this very sweet, sentimental moment where Ruth talks about like why she created Barbie, which, as it said in the opening, Barbie was created because back in the day there was really only like baby dolls for girls, to kind of like encourage them to be a mother, and you could really only play mother with a baby doll. So Barbie was created as a different option for girls to like play with outfits and like, you know, be who you want to be, Barbie, but you know, like live out like fantasies and really use their imagination with Barbie and Ken and all Barbie's friends. And they didn't have to just play a mother, you know, they could play as anything that they wanted with Barbie. Barbie is upset because she feels like she doesn't have a purpose. She's just stereotypical Barbie. She's not meant to do anything. She's just meant to be Barbie, and she doesn't want that. She wants more for her life. So Ruth tells her that that's the whole reason she created Barbie, is so you could do whatever you wanted to do, and you could dream big, and you could follow what you wanted and choose your own path, essentially. So Barbie decides that she no longer wants to live in Barbie Land, and she wants to become real and live in the real world. And she does. She goes back to the real world with Gloria and her daughter. She becomes human. In the final scene, they're dropping Barbie off at an office, and you think, oh, she's got a job interview or something, but it turns out that she is visiting her gynecologist, and then the movie ends. And that's funny because earlier in the movie, she's like talking to the guys that are like catcalling her at Venice Beach, and she's like, just so you know, I don't have a vagina, and he doesn't have a penis. We don't have genitals because they're dolls, and dolls don't, right? So at the end, when she's human, she has one now, so she goes to a gynecologist. And it's like a funny little cute ending. The ending before that, with like the resolve to the fight and the making up and then the whole speech by Ruth, For me personally, I felt like it went on a little too long. Like it was a little too drawn out. Like we didn't need that much of a resolve. We didn't need to be like spelled out how Barbie feels in that moment and like what she wanted. It was like, not that it was bad. It's just for me, once we got to that part, I was like, okay, this ending is taking a while to end. You know what I mean? Like, I get it. I got it. But that's just me. I'm probably the only person I might be the only person that feels that way. But that's all that happens in the Barbie movie. Like I said, I probably skipped a bunch of stuff, but again, if you're watching this, you've seen the movie, you know what happens. But so my general thoughts, other than what I already said, because really my main issue was the relationship between Barbie and Ken, which again I feel like was purposeful. I just would have liked if they could like conclude that Barbie wanted to live in the real world outside of Ken, like without setting it up that she never really cared about Ken anyway. Like if there was a different emotion she could go through where she like picks that life over the life she has there, where maybe she's happy with Ken, but like I said, she didn't really care about him. And just because I've always liked that relationship and that how it was portrayed between Barbie and Ken in other movies, like, you know, like Toy Story or any of the million like Barbie animated movies, I get that they're doing something different. I would have liked some romance, if again, not between them, between like any of the other Barbies and Kens. So there was not a whole lot of that. Something I do want to say about the Kens is, okay, again, personally, besides Ryan Gosling, I didn't really find any of the Kens attractive, which isn't a detriment to the movie. Like, that's not a big part of the movie, is that they're all attractive, right? They don't even really, that's not even like a plot that they all have to be hot or anything like that. And that's never part of the message that they have to be hot. It's just, I've always thought of like Barbie and Ken and any variation of them as being like very like traditionally attractive people, right? Even like the plus size ones are like, you know, curvy and like traditionally attractive, like in a different way, you know what I mean? But I think it's because all of the Barbies and Kens were a little bit older than Barbies and Kens are usually portrayed. Like anytime I've seen a Barbie and Ken pairing in a movie or in any sort of media, they've been like late teens, early 20s. And in this movie, all of the Barbies, most of the Barbie and Kens were like mid to late 30s, with a couple in their early 30s, but most of them were like mid to late. And like including all the Kens, like some of them were like near 40. And I don't know. I didn't think any of them were all that attractive. And not that they're ugly guys in real life, because the guys who played Ken, aside from Ryan Gosling, who is always attractive, even though he is a little bit older now, he's still attractive. Like everyone's like, oh, he's too old to play Ken, but all the Kens are older. All the Barbies are older, most of them. Like I think the youngest one was like 30. Like Simu Liu, he's great in the role, like as the rival Ken to Ryan Gosling's Ken. He's great in the role, but he didn't really give me the same Kenergy, you know what I mean? Kingsley Ben-Adir, who is 37 and not a bad looking man. Like I've seen pictures of him and like him in other media where he looks good, like he's a good looking man, but the way he looked as his own Ken, I didn't like. And again, none of this matters. I'm just saying I wasn't like, just because I'm not attracted to most of the Kens does not mean I will dock points from this movie. These are just thoughts that I need to get out. Scott Evans, who is 39, he was kind of like just average looking in the movie. And again, like he's pretty good looking outside of this movie. It's just the way they made him up in this didn't like show him at his best. And that's just generally how I feel about all the Kens in this movie. They're not bad looking guys, but I just didn't like them as Kens. They didn't really fit my view of what a Ken would look like. The Barbies, on the other hand, were all gorgeous. They were all, the way that they were done up. And again, probably purposeful, just because like it's about Barbie and Ken is like the secondary character to Barbie, and they're made for Barbie, so they're not trying to like outshine Barbie in any way, and like they wouldn't. So like all the Barbies were like so like done up and beautiful, and the Kens just look like guys. They were just guys, you know, which, you know, that makes sense. I just would have liked to be able to gawk at hot men and hot women, you know. That's just me. The Barbies were all great, and they all were really great at playing Barbie. Like they all had that amazing energy, that fizz, you know. They had beautiful smiles, exactly how you'd think a Barbie would be. They all were. Margot Robbie, of course, was great as the traditional Barbie, but like Kate McKinnon, like I said, was perfect as the weird Barbie. She acted just like a Barbie if that Barbie had been through some stuff, but was still like optimistic about life. You know what I mean? Alexandra Shipp, who I've always been a huge fan of. Like I've always thought that she was so gorgeous. So I was really excited to see her in this movie. She is great as a Barbie. Issa Rae as well. I love Issa Rae as President Barbie. She was hilarious, but also just generally really great in all of her other scenes. And Sharon Rooney, like I said, the plus size lawyer Barbie, also had like perfect Barbie energy. I love the scene where they're all seeing Margot Robbie's foot, how it's flat now, and they're all like, ah! Flat feet! And it's all the Barbie stuff, all of the Barbie world stuff with the Barbies and Kens, I loved. It's all the stuff that wasn't that, I was like, like, to be honest, I really didn't care all that much about Gloria and her daughter in that situation. Like, I was a little bit sad, like, oh, you know, like a daughter, like a mom, like, really wanting to connect with her daughter who's a teenager, and that's so hard. But also I was like, okay, like, it, you know, everybody goes through that. That's just like a natural part of life sometimes, is that your kids aren't always going to be as close to you as you'd like them to be, right? But, you know, I get it. I get that hurts. You know, I'm not a mother, but I am a daughter, and I definitely did go through that phase with my mom. And, you know, now that I'm an adult, we're closer now. So I just was thinking about that, like, this is just what teenagers are like with their moms. And I get that her daughter is, like, the only thing that she has, but it happens, right? Like, so I feel like the movie really wanted me to care about Gloria's situation, and I did to an extent, but also I was like, I don't really need to see Gloria's scenes as much as I would love to see more Barbie scenes.
Hey, it's me again. A few days after I filmed that review, I feel like my best thoughts come to me when I'm not sitting at my desk. I always like look back on footage after I film it, and I'm like, wow, there's a lot of stuff that I wanted to say that I didn't say. So this is me coming and adding something that I thought was really important, that I guess was just hard for me to think of when I'm looking at my notes and the camera at the same time. I just forget a whole lot. I didn't really touch too much on what I felt like the overarching themes of the story were. I talked a little bit about feminism, and obviously that's a big part of it, right? Like feminism, what it means to be a woman, and things like that. And I don't want it to come off that I feel like the whole movie is just about feminism and like surface level, like women can do any kind of feminism. I know I talked about that a lot in the review. Like I said, even though that is like a big part of it, first of all, there's nothing wrong with that, right? Like the kind of brand of feminism, I guess you could say that this film is kind of like not necessarily promoting, but is like illustrating, I guess you could say, is fine, is great, right? But there's something more on a deeper level than that. Like, yes, what does it mean to be a woman and exist as a woman in society, and a man as well, like with Ken and his arc and what he is going through, right? But Barbie's like existentialism that she gets from Gloria also stems from a more like broader concept of one's self-worth. And I think that that's really important to mention because it is a big theme, and it is something, though it is like a broader theme, it is much deeper than some of the other themes. You know, they're all very deep, but I like this theme the most, probably, of self-worth, of us, you know, not only as women, but as people, or even not people, you know, not a real person like Barbie is. And that's where kind of her existentialism comes from, is she's like, I'm not really a person. Am I really even like doing anything? Do I even matter? You know, and that all stemmed from Gloria feeling like she doesn't matter generally in the world, in her job, to her daughter, and she passed that on to Barbie, who took those feelings and interpreted them how they applied, you know, to Barbie. And Ken goes through an interesting arc of self-worth as well. In the beginning, he even has, you know, his whole song, I'm just Ken.
You're Ken.
But it's Barbie and Ken. There is no just Ken.
Seem to matter what I do, I'm always number two. I'm just Ken. Where I see love, she sees a friend.
Everything in like the opening part is just about how he exists for Barbie. He only has a good day if he sees Barbie, if Barbie talks to him, right? He was literally made for Barbie, and he lives in Barbie's world. He doesn't live in his own world, he lives in Barbie's. All the Kens do. And his arc, though strange how he gets to it, makes him realize his worth and open up to Barbie about these feelings that he's having. Because Barbie does kind of like brush him off the whole movie. And like I was saying previously, though maybe I didn't like that so much on a movie level, I would have liked a little bit more romance. It definitely was purposeful for this particular theme of self-worth that Barbie and Ken were going through together yet separately, right? Ken realized through the real world that he is worth a lot simply being a man, right? Because in the real world, that means a whole lot more than it does in the Barbie world. So he took that and took it to the Barbie world and just basically tried to get noticed, because that was his whole problem. Is it was hard for him to get noticed, to get any sort of love or attention from Barbie or really anybody. And he lashed out, kind of rightfully so. Like you can justify it, though his actions were not the best. You can see why he would lash out. I can see why he would lash out and do that and try to turn things around and think, well, if you're just gonna, put me to the curb, what if I took over? How does it make you feel, Barbie? And kind of did exactly to Barbie what she did to him, right? And it makes a lot of sense, that kind of role reversal. And then at the end, of course, they reconcile and Barbie realizes what she was doing to Ken, and how her worth as not a person wanting to be a person, and generally Gloria's worth as a woman relates to how Ken felt, and she didn't realize that before she went on this journey. And I think both of these characters' arcs, really all three, Barbie, Ken, Gloria, and all the characters really, but of course those are our main three, right? This arc of self-worth and self-discovery, of like, not to say it again, but being who you are, but in a different way, right, was so important, I think. And that's just the theme that I liked the best. Like, yes, you have like your feminism kind of thing, and feminism's great, right? I'm a feminist, but I think a lot of people are gonna see this movie as just that, as just this kind of like feminist or propaganda or something like that, of like, oh, what, like, oh, because the men rule everything. No, they don't, not anymore. Like, you're saying women should rule everything. And I and I think a lot of people are gonna think that, but that's literally like what Ken was doing when he turned things around, where he's like, well, what if I was number one Barbie, right? That's not what this movie is saying, because the movie proves within itself that neither structure works, right? Being woman-centric or being man-centric. So I just wanted to delve into that a bit. The most important thing in the movie for me, like the biggest theme of like self-worth and finding your worth. And I just couldn't find the words for that when I was recording the rest of the review. So I really want to sit down and just get that part out. So back to the end of the video.
Other than that, it was pretty good. I definitely think I need to see it again just to get another look at it, and maybe I'll like it even more. Maybe there's some stuff that I forgot about that I would have included here. But for now, that's pretty much all my thoughts. I mean, obviously it looked amazing. Loved the set pieces, especially in Barbie. Cannot praise Barbie Land enough, and the attention to detail across all the Barbies and each set piece in Barbie Land, and even like outside of Barbie Land, the Mattel office was really cool, how that was set up, and it was kind of like a horror maze kind of thing when Barbie was going through it, and it was awesome. The cinematography, like each shot looked interesting because there was lots of interesting stuff to look at all times, most of the time anyway. The colors, like I said, were bright and beautiful throughout most of it, and the outfits, I mean, you can't not talk about the outfits. They were pretty insane. They were pretty good outfits. I love them, as a costume person, as someone who like worked in the costume department in college, like I'm a theater major, I just like can't help but appreciate a good costume. And there were so many great outfits in this movie. And of course the soundtrack, I love the music, specifically the opening song, like I said, and Ken's song and when he sang the Matchbox 20 song was probably my favorite part of the movie. Ryan Gosling, like I said in the beginning, really stole the show. Like he was meant to play Ken at some point in his life, and I'm so glad that he's doing it now. He was just like hilarious, kind of like a himbo energy. Like he was kind of dumb, but he was very sweet. He was just perfect. I don't really know. And he was like, most of the time that I laughed was at like something that Ken said or did. He was amazing. And Margot Robbie was of course good, but Ken was by far the best character to me, and I really liked his arc Barbie and Ken both had pretty good, clear, like well-developed arcs throughout the film, but I don't know, I just loved Ken's like discovery of misogyny, and I was like, oh no, he's gonna take over Barbie world. Like, I was so invested in his plot line. I guess what I'm saying is not that I didn't care about Gloria, it's just that I was not as invested in that plot line as I was in the Ken plot line. And I think that's all I have to say about the Barbie movie for now. It was really good. I did have a few criticisms, like I said, so if you've seen this movie, let me know what you thought. I would love to hear any commentary that you have. I would love to talk about this movie. I'd love to engage with it, especially if you have like an opposing view. I'd love to hear it. So that's all for now. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye. Thanks for watching, honeybees. Make sure to like and subscribe. Bye. Meow.